This episode of Tubb Talk is brought to you by Avast Business. With over 435 million active users of Avast products, if you haven't already taken a look at what Avast Business is offering, now might be the time. Visit tubblog.co.uk/Avast for all the links to the details. Right now, though, let's jump into our featured interview. Mitesh Patel, Managing Director of FIFO. Welcome to Tubb Talk.
Thank you, Richard.
How are you doing today? How's things going?
Yeah, really good, actually. It's been a long year, 2018, and carrying through a lot of opportunities into 2019. So, already got started and already feels like I need a holiday.
Well, we won't take too much of your time, and we'll try and make this as light as possible to not bring you down. Now, you and I spent some time together recently at DatoCon in Barcelona. And you told me a little bit about the story of FIFO, where you'd built the business and how you'd grown from there. I found it absolutely fascinating. Tell me a little bit more about FIFO, who you are, who FIFO are, and help us understand your journey to get to where you are today.
Okay, so it's quite a long journey because I started FIFO out of university 17 years ago. So quite a lot to cover, but in a nutshell, we've grown pretty much organically for a long time. When I started with knocking on doors and giving people an alternative to using the yellow pages or a friend of a friend to provide IT support. But we then also made a couple of acquisitions of some smaller MSPs back in 2011 and 2013. So we've now grown to around 50-odd staff, and we've got about 130-odd clients. I'd say 80% of our client base is in London, with 20% outside of London and international as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Gone through, adding a lot more to managed services as we've gone along. When we first started, it was just support, and then suddenly we added maintenance, and then we've added licensing management, and then we've added procurement. And it seems every single facet of the technology space seems to be bundled into managed services at some point. And now it's the managed security side. So all of that's been bundled in as well. So yeah, I think it's just going to continue like that.
Yeah, so there's so much to unpack there. You've just summarised your journey from 2001 until today in a few sentences. But there's a couple of things I want to pick up immediately on. When I speak to MSPs, a lot of them believe that acquisitions is a great way for them to grow their business. Clearly, it's worked for you, but I've seen some people fail spectacularly when it comes to acquiring other companies. What would you say is the secret? How have you made acquisitions that have been good for the business and made them work for you?
So the first acquisition we actually made back in 2010-11 was I went to Cranfield on a business growth program on a course, and the lecturer said to me, "What does your business look like if your largest client left tomorrow?" And immediately I started sweating because we had one particular client that represented 72% of our annual revenue. And the question being asked is what gave me that wake-up call, even though I probably knew it at the back of my head, but I thought, this is a high risk. So very swiftly, I knew that we had to resolve this. And within a month, I went and approached an MSP who we'd known about. They weren't hugely profitable, but they had a good recurring revenue stream. And we made them an offer. That allowed us to reduce my largest client down to about 17%. So we actually bought someone who was slightly bigger than us, but I had a clear reason for doing that. As much as when I walked into that business and I said, there were 38 staff, and I said, look, all of you are safe, and all of you are going to stay employed, and it's all going to be nice and rosy. The reality was, within 2 years, most of the staff had actually left, and we'd ended up with keeping about 2 of them.
And why did they leave? Was it a culture clash? Was it,
Yeah, it was primarily a culture clash, as well as it added another half an hour journey from their office in London Bridge to our office. So there was nothing that, fundamentally, they disagreed with from a strategy point of view. It was more, the additional travel was a major issue.
Yeah.
And some of the things from a culture point of view, they used to have a beer o'clock at 4:00 on Thursdays and Fridays, and no one understood profitability per client. And it was certain things that we had to resolve. And we did find that we also had a dropout of, I think, 30% of their client base within the first 2 years. And again, that was as a result of us going to visit some of these clients and saying, on average, you are paying us £6 per hour. We're going to have to increase your rates. And with clients saying, no, we're not willing to do that. So we said, well, we clearly can't carry on at £6 an hour rate. So we had to let some clients go. But there were lots and lots of learnings from the first acquisition. Even made some mistakes where I said that the most important thing when you make an acquisition is that they are all on your contract, which is, again, false. They do not need to be on your contract, but no one had told me that at the time. So we ended up wasting a lot of time, energy, and effort going down certain routes rather than just focusing on delivering a better, improved service to the existing client base in order to retain them.
Yeah, and that was your first acquisition, wasn't it? But I know you've made multiple acquisitions. So you've shared some of the things that perhaps didn't go as well, some of the stuff that you've learned. What did it look like the next time you made an acquisition?
Well, by that time, we'd had our tool set in place. So a key thing when we look for an acquisition is that what is the actual tool set that they're using? What are we using? How easy is it going to be to migrate them into our culture, into our processes? How swiftly can we achieve that? So I'd say the next time we were actually ready to actually make an acquisition and absorb the existing cost base very swiftly, be able to deliver their clients added value. So the MSP that we acquired, they didn't offer 24/7 manned support and knock services. That's something that we did. So we're going to see those clients and saying, great, your rates are going to stay the same, but we're now going to offer you something more. And that's how we ended up getting them to sign longer term contracts. And some did say, look, we'd like to see what happens over the next 6-9 months, and then we'll decide whether or not to do this. And to be honest, we were being quite flexible in our approach and said, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, lots of lessons learned in that process. But trying to grow organically in London, where we are, in a very competitive space, is very difficult. Unless you really do have something that's explicitly unique, which many managed services providers have struggled to kind of come up with. And also when you make acquisitions, when somebody says, who is your target market? When you make acquisitions, you're inheriting a great number of sectors and a large number of clients. So again, it makes answering that question a lot more difficult.
Yeah. And what does, you talked about the number of clients that you've got on board with FIFO at the moment. Do you see any trends there? Is there any sort of niches or verticals that spring out that you specialize in or enjoy working with?
Well, one thing we've done, especially in the last couple of years, is we've gone on to offer point solutions to the higher end, as in the mid-market client base. So we are going in with a point solution for backup, a point solution for NOC services, a point solution for cybersecurity, awareness training. So we're being very specific for going for that higher end in terms of mid-market. Where we see our sweet spot is where there's an organization who has the 1 or 2 man IT department. for the 100 to 400 users where they are, let's say, outsourcing or getting a managed services provider on board to act as an extension of the in-house IT team. So we're finding that we're having a lot more success in that space in the last 2-3 years, which we didn't have before. It was when you called them and said, hi, we're a managed service provider. They just said, no, we're not interested, and they put the phone down. Whereas now they also understand that they're struggling to employ the skill sets required. The breadth and depth is far greater. And they're going to need to work with a managed services provider.
And what about the future for the business? Do you see acquisition as a great way to grow moving forward, or are you relying more on the traditional sales and marketing techniques?
Well, we're about to make an acquisition in 2019. So we're on the verge of making a third acquisition at present. I think it's a good strategy is to have a combination of both, where you've got a good, strong organic sales and marketing engine going along, and then you've also got some acquisition appetite there as well. I can say that, or I can share that in the last year and a half, for once, we've actually invested consistently in sales and marketing. It's something that we haven't done previously. We'd invest in tranches and give a lead gen company 3 months, and then we wouldn't get anything back or anything significant. So we'd drop it and then do nothing for another 9-10 months, and then we'd start it up again. So this stop-start approach, which we adopted for a good 4 or 5 years, didn't really work for us. Whereas now in the last 18 months, we've been very consistent. We've taken an approach to provide education to the market first, without necessarily asking or putting at the end of each blog or article a call to action. So it came across as, let's deliver some education first, and then we'll take the approach to put in a call to action. We've been providing, as part of our marketing plan, free training to prospects and clients, so they get to engage with us at a much more less intrusive way than actually trying to sell to them. So by giving them free training, they get to learn about us, learn about what we do, and then when they're ready or the time is right, then they will come to us. So we're having huge success by changing the approach in that way.
Fascinating, yeah. And in terms of the marketing, you said you do it in tranches and it didn't work for you. I think that's true across the board. I see so many MSPs who don't listen to that old phrase that, marketing is an ongoing process, not an event.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So really good to hear that you've nailed that as well. And congratulations on the upcoming acquisition. Good luck with that. I watch that with interest and see where that goes. Something you talked about earlier on when you said about acquisitions and culture, but also the tech stack. What does the current MSP tech stack look like at Pfeiffer?
So for us, we have committed to Datto primarily. So 90% of our data backup, business continuity, and disaster recovery is actually now with Datto. I mean, we were historically with a Segra for many years. We still have a 100 terabyte vault with a Segra, but the majority is all now moved over to Datto, which is what we're also using as a point solution. From a cloud stack, I mean, we ran our own private cloud when it wasn't called cloud back in 2006, and it was called private hosting.
Yeah.
We moved from having our data center in an office, in a room inside my office, with 400 users dialing in from 4 countries for their Citrix desktop profile. We then moved into a tier 2 data center, and then in 2012 we invested £1.5 million and set up our own dual site infrastructure. With the emergence of public clouds over the last 3 years, we have consolidated our private cloud down to around 20% now. So we've got infrastructure in Azure, AWS and G Suite. Because the time has come now, you've got your modern day business that starts in the cloud. So a different approach is required, and you are in effect inheriting solutions or cloud solutions that they've already invested in. So the cloud stack is quite broad, although we do have clients who are still in our private cloud or who have taken rack space within data centers. I believe it comes down to a compliance and auditing requirement that if your auditors are required to turn up to your data centers and plug their laptops in to evidence what you have, then you need to go into a private cloud. If you don't, then a public cloud offering should certainly be considered. More and more, I'd probably say about 80% of our clients have a hybrid infrastructure with a degree of infrastructure on premise and the rest in the relevant cloud solution that's available to them. From a security point of view, again, it's quite broad. There are many who have committed to 6-10 different vendors within this space. We were quite similar initially. However, we've consolidated already and will be consolidating even further. So going to events like DataCon was very useful because you're always meeting a great number of vendors there who you can learn from and talk to other MSPs who adopted their technologies and see how they'll fit into your environment and your actual client proposition.
And what's the driver behind that consolidation of vendors? What's in it for 5Assist? Why does it make life easier for you?
If you can report things through a single glass pane, that's the ultimate. Delivering our clients transparency, where they can go on their phone and get visibility to what you're doing, when you're doing it, be able to click through directly into your tool set so they can evidence what you're doing. I think that's of utmost importance. Right. Also then from a staff training point of view, trying to get your staff to be trained on 10 different products has always been a challenge across the MSP space. So by consolidating certain vendors, it's much easier to train your staff as well.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. Now,
and you also get good rates as well.
Yeah, let's talk practicalities. Yeah,
negotiations of vendor rates is important, and they are willing to do deals as well. And I still can't see from the MSPs that I speak to that many are making huge margins on vendor negotiated products. But the key thing for MSPs is that the clients are doing the right thing. And by going in at a set price point, can you convince the clients to improve their security? Can you get them to take less risks? And it's these kind of things where vendors may sit there and think, okay, we're doing a deal. But yes, you are doing a deal. But ultimately, we have to go and convince the clients to spend that money, or we have to absorb the cost because we're going to be able to drive the efficiency within our own processes.
Yeah, you're going to lower your cost of support by bringing those tools on board. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So thinking about your story and where you've come from, you've grown 5Assist from nothing to where you are today. You're very clearly a driven entrepreneur and a business leader. And I've heard more than one person, not to make you blush, but speak very highly of you as a leader. What does leadership mean to you, Mitesh?
Oh, God. I think it's practice what you preach. So it's, keeping it very simple, you've got to, understanding that we are a technology company is very important. There was a period of time when even myself kind of moved away and went, no, this is all about the number of tickets, number of incidents, and the response times and so forth. The way the market is going has meant that MSPs can't just sit and hide behind the actual technology stack. You've got to be active in that. That requires leadership through the business that you're in. And some of the acquisitions that we have made, we have found that they forgot that they're actually a technology company. They thought they're just a customer service company. And I'll be honest, I think about 10 years ago, the vendors who provide products to the MSP market were telling the MSPs that you're a customer service company, and they went down that route. Over the last 3-4 years, they themselves have changed their tune and gone, no, you're actually a technology company first, and then customer service company on top of that. So from my point of view, leadership around the actual technology stack is absolutely important. Understanding why you need to do these things, what messages you need to give to the market. We're lucky that there's so much evidence around the market, especially around security and all the threats that are actually there. So the media has certainly supported a lot of the messaging, which has helped us, because that's allowed clients. It's not us forcing messages down clients; they're reading about them day in, day out. From a leadership point of view, it's also the actual team. So making sure that you're actually growing and developing your team constantly. And if we're not learning, we're not developing. If we're not learning and developing, neither are we giving ourselves the opportunity to educate and develop our clients to increase the use of technology to deliver the operations of their business. I mean, ultimately, we've always wanted to get beyond the basics. So it's not, is my internet working? Is my phone working? Am I receiving email? It was wanting to elevate the conversation beyond that in terms of how can you use technology to help you make more money? How can you use technology to save you money? How can you deliver a more transparent approach to your end client? So it's not just us to our client. So this year we'll be having a couple of training sessions in our office where we're inviting our clients to come and see how we use technology to automate and to improve our own efficiency, to see if there's something they will gain and learn from being exposed to what we actually do.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And a sort of tenet that I used to use back when I was running a managed service provider was build the business that your clients want to have.
Yeah.
Go along those lines. So I absolutely love that. What do you do for yourself, for your own, leadership, personal development? What do you do, Mitesh, to keep the saw sharp and to keep learning?
Myself or the team?
For yourself.
Well, I'll be honest. Recently, I went and did a session with. The course is actually called Spotlight. It's any athlete that is an athlete or represents Great Britain. They go to St. George's in the north, and it's performance psychology. So I went on the session through my Cranfield University alumni with 30 other business owners. And I then asked them to come in November last year to come and do a session with my actual team. So it's a bit like those Thomas International psychometric testing reports, but this was quite different in terms of, we've always invested in creating that high performance team. And this was about getting the staff involved where individually they learn more about themselves and how they can work better with others by understanding their approach. So I did that for myself, but I thought if I do that for myself, I've got to come back to my office and talk to my team, and they're not going to understand why I'm saying certain things that I am or approaching things in a certain way. So the only way was to get an external organization to come in and deliver that to my own staff.
That's fabulous, yeah.
And I'm constantly going out. I do a lot of reading. I'm educating myself, stepping out of my comfort zone, which is always a challenge. But yeah, just constantly talking to other MSPs. I mean, we've built strong relationships with many over the years, and opportunities like going to attend the conferences like DattoCon means that you're talking to our other MSPs, and as long as you're willing to be transparent and give information, they're willing to share information back. So that whole approach of givers gain definitely works.
Such good advice. Such good advice. If you were to start FIFOSIS again tomorrow, what would it look like? How would you do things differently? Do we have enough time on the podcast for that? Or?
I don't think so, Richard.
I would just summarize. How has the industry changed since you've started? What can you see now clearly that looking back was a bit of a puzzle to you at the time?
I think it's how you define, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your customer? Yeah. When I first, remember I started from very humble beginnings in knocking on doors, and I knocked on, a lot of doors around London. And at the end of 3 months, I secured £600 a month annual recurring revenue. And I thought, great, this is the route forward, But then there's only so many doors that you can actually knock on. I didn't really have much of a business plan as such. The market's matured so much for the MSP space. And I remember talking to my staff about 3-4 years ago, and I said to them in one of our briefing sessions, I said, is this business model still valid in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, and so forth? And the staff said, well, who knows? We don't know. No one knows. And I said, no, we do know, because is it ever going to get any cheaper to recruit technical staff and technical people? And with technology changing and developing so much, keeping them up to date and so forth, I said, it's not going to get any cheaper. So our model is valid. And I know people hate using this word forever, but I'd like to say forever. So knowing that now, if I had to start Phyphosis now, I would certainly take a much more different approach with clients, a much more longer term view. Signing contracts with clients on a monthly rolling basis or on a 3-month rolling basis, there's no relationship there. And you're not giving yourself or your client enough time to learn how you work, for you to adapt to their culture and their environment. It's just too short term. But there are still today so many MSPs that I've met and spoken to that actually do this in the market. They're sitting there still going in at really low numbers. A lot of MSPs are, if they are profitable, but going in at a 3 to 5% EBIT. That's not giving them enough money to invest back into the business, to train their staff, to get their certifications. It's not enough, building a business plan, if I was going to do it today, that does give me a minimum of 15 to 20% EBIT is what I would do. And that's what it's going to take then for you to then put 5% back in to then further develop and so forth. So I think the more MSPs, yes, we are I think anyone can set up an MSP. That's why there's thousands of us out there. Sometimes people say to me that, who are your competitors? And I'd say my biggest competitors are the smaller MSPs who are going in, not necessarily cutting corners. I don't want to be quite rude if I did say that, but going in at price points that are not profitable. And that's the biggest challenge. If the MSP market space stuck together more, I don't think there's any MSP that's sitting there going, I want for 2,000 clients. No one is sitting there saying that. So there's a market there for everyone. But if everyone actually set a price point and said, okay, it's got to be £100 an hour, that's the minimum, and we set that as a blanket rate across the MSP space, that kind of message is going to benefit our entire market.
Yes. Change things for everybody as opposed to a drive to the bottom with the pricing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And people should buy, we welcome competition, let them decide. If they've got three vendors, who do they fit best with? Suppliers, who do they fit best with? Who sent the best people to the sales meeting? Who presented the best proposals? Who did the most thorough audits? Give them other reasons than price to make their decision. And if you did do canvas and opinion across MSPs and said, how many of you would like to win a client based on price? I think everyone's going to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Good answer to the question, to what could have been a wide-ranging question. You got straight to the meat of the matter there. I appreciate it. So FIFOSys are known for being really, I'm going to say, on the cutting edge when it comes to the managed service model and how you define it. If you were to gaze into your crystal ball now, Mitesh, and look forward a little bit, what do you think is just around the corner for FIFOSys as a business? What are you going to be concentrating on in the next 12 to 36 months?
We're focusing a lot more on the security side, I'll be honest. Yeah. We see the security side as opening doors to a larger client base, as in size of business, and landing on the security side and then expanding into further areas. This has worked for us over the last 12, 18 months. We already are carrying into 2019 a lot more than we've ever carried into a single year before. The market is a lot more open. The larger outsourced organizations like Computer Center, Atos, and we see their models changing, or them struggling to cope with the level of support that is required in today's market. So I sit there now and say, great, there's a lot of opportunity there. It is always about increasing the annual recurring revenue, but how can you do that with a point solution rather than calling and saying, give me everything? This whole give me everything and I will be the best at every single area of your operational IT is a challenge for MSPs, for many of them. And it requires you to get to a certain size to be able to make that commitment. So if you're not at a certain size where you can make that commitment, then you're already compromising. We are fortunate that we have managed to hit a certain size where we don't need to compromise. Yeah. So, I mean, I sit there and say, great, security is a big thing for us. Optimization of infrastructure environments, it's no longer is something up or down. It's going to be down to optimization of the actual applications, optimization of staff's usage, optimization of security. So there's a huge emphasis, I think, that we've focused on, which is all around the optimization of what they've invested in.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. If you don't mind, we'll also talk about another business you've got going there. So you're the CEO of Engage Property Technology as well. Tell us a bit about that business. So you really are the entrepreneur. I just want to drive into this.
Okay, so Engage was actually born out of a contract that FIFOSys won at the Legacy Olympic site. So during that process, we found an opportunity where, luckily, they didn't need to consider any legacy stock. So these are the 3,500 homes that the athletes stayed in during the Olympics. And we came up with a way of automating interactions between tenants and landlords. So we spotted an opportunity. There was a gap in the market. So we invested profits from FIFOSys to basically develop this SaaS-based piece of software that we've then packaged and taken external investment in. And that's gone from literally 3,000 users to 120,000 in the last 12 months. And it's great. I mean, the vision for that business is to improve the lives of the millions of people in the UK that rent. And, the expectations of people are increasing. It's unfortunate that in the UK, where we have, everyone aspired to one day own a home, for many, that's a distant reality. So they're going to have to rent. And I think if they're going to have to rent, then it's the property sector's responsibility to ensure they have the best experience possible. They feel safe. It is transparent. They can go use their phone to go and self-serve, so log their own maintenance requests, make payments, receive offers from local retailers, be notified if they've got parcels that are being delivered, just to automate that whole process. So it's something that, it took us a long time to sit whilst we sat in our humble office in West Hampstead and thought, have we really created something new that no one else has done? That took us a long time to kind of accept. And once we realized that we had, then we've actually gone for it.
Yeah.
And again, that business is it's very different. But in that business, in 2017, we spent £200,000 on marketing, and we did 14 events through the year. And I've never ever spent any kind of money like that in Phyphosis, but the brand Engage is now a known entity in the market. So it does kind of prove that it can actually work. And but there is a difference. So I'll tell you this, or share with you that we work with an SEO company, and we put all of our search terms for Phyphosis into Google to see how many times a month they searched. So this is data backups, IT support London, IT support, cloud computing, Office 365, you name it, all those search terms. All those search terms are put into Google 1.4 million times a month in the UK. On Engage's side, our search terms are property management software, resident portal, lettings portal, landlord portal, all those search terms associated with Engage, they're put into Google 4,300 times a month. So it tells you about the levels of maturity within the market. So for us as managed service providers to put a tiny little dent into our SEO presence, it's very difficult. You're looking at budgets. I mean, for us to put a 0.01% dent, I think the monthly budget was something like £6,000. Whereas for Engage, we've put in £800 a month, and we're number one across everything. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just something to be aware of. When my marketing company told me that, I was like, "Oh my God, that's why it's been so difficult."
Because you're blazing a trail here, aren't you? Nobody else is doing it at the moment.
Yeah, well, there are people out there who do bits of it, so they'll just do payments or they'll just log a maintenance. But we've got the single glass pane that organizations can use as a window to go in.
Yeah,
and it's been really quite exciting because there's always been fintech, but this whole prop tech term has only come about in the last 2-3 years, and we see a big penetration in that area. So we're a small player, but getting to be quite well known and significant in that space.
Yeah, and I wish you every luck with it, because it is making people's lives better, isn't it? And it's going to become significantly more relevant as time goes on as well. So I wish you all the best with that.
No, thank you very much. I mean, I remember when I was at Cranfield, they said, "What is the purpose of your business, and how do you make a difference to people's lives?" So as Phyphosis, or if any MSP provider listening in wants to email me an answer to that question, please feel free to do so, because it was very difficult with Phyphosis, because you sit there and go, how do we make a difference to people's lives? And you're sitting there going, all right, their computer works, or they're getting their email, they can talk to their friends on their phone, they can transact. It's a very difficult one I found to answer. Whereas for Engage, single product, single sector, and making a difference to people's lives who rent. I mean, you could answer that question.
Yes.
But I'd love to hear answers for the MSP.
Well, let's do that, because one of the things that I'm very conscious of your time here, Mitesh. You've given so freely of your time and been very open and honest. So not only do I appreciate it, I know the listeners will. But if anybody listening did want to continue the conversation with you, how do they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. My email address is m.patel@phyphosis.com. Feel free to connect with me or send me an email. Happy to talk.
Fantastic. Well, again, you've been massively open and honest here. You've given freely of your time. I appreciate it. You are rapidly becoming one of my favorite people in the industry to spend time with, Mitesh, not just on the dance floor, as we did at DattoCon, throwing some shapes there at that awesome party, but just in general. I'm really proud to see what you're achieving in business there across everything that you do. So thank you for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll look forward to speaking to you next time.
Thank you.
Hey folks, Richard here. Thanks for listening today. I know you've got a ton of options for who you listen to nowadays, so I really appreciate your support. Do you have any feedback on this episode? Ideas for future guests? Tweet me at Tubblog using the hashtag TubbTalk. I respond to every tweet and really appreciate your feedback. Richard here, and I wanted to give a really big shout out and to say a huge thank you to our friends at Avast for bringing this episode to you. In the face of increasingly complex threats targeting small and medium businesses, yesterday's methods are no longer enough. Cybersecurity must be quicker, smarter, and more reliable than ever before. Avast Business provide a range of powerful, easy to deploy security products and management platforms designed for IT solution providers and managed service providers. Avast Business offer a variety of cybersecurity products that are MSP friendly. You can choose from standalone antivirus products, managed antivirus products, cloud care for layered endpoint and network security services, backup and recovery, content filtering, email security, patch management, and a management console to easily deploy endpoint protection solutions to devices in your client networks. These solutions are all backed by the largest, most globally dispersed threat detection network in the world. If you've not checked out Avast's secure internet gateway, then I'd recommend taking a look at the video demo that Avast's Paul Fenwick and I recorded. It delivers a full security stack as a service that protects users wherever they go. With 30 years as a leading cybersecurity company and over 435 million active users of Avast products, if you haven't already taken a look at what Avast Business is offering, now might be the time. Visit tubblog.co.uk/Avast for links to all the details. Hey team, this is Richard again. Just one more thing before you take off, and that is MSP Insights. Now, every Tuesday, I share my thoughts on the business of IT with you, the managed service community. Thousands of managed service providers already subscribe to MSP Insights. It's easy to sign up, easy to cancel. MSP Insights is basically a short email from me every Tuesday without fail with advice on growing your IT business, plus cool resources I've found, discovered, or started exploring that week. It's kind of like my diary of cool things and often includes articles or books I've read, tools I've discovered, and events I think you'd be interested in, often sent to me by my friends and Tubb Talk podcast guests. So if that sounds fun, a short tiny bite of MSP goodness every Tuesday, and you'd like to try it out, just go to go.tubb.co/Tuesday. That's go.tubb.co/Tuesday. Drop in your email and you'll get the very next one. Thanks for listening.